No, it's not Jackanory. It's What's Your Story, Chorley. My name's Katharine Angel, and I've been involved with What's Your Story, Chorley from the very first minute and the very first ideas. Way back then, I'd written a couple of books, and since then a few more. Some for adults, some for children. And until recently, I've been selling them on Preston Station, just in case you think you might have recognised me from somewhere cold and wet and windy. Obviously that had to stop last year, and since then I've been doing all sorts of other things, but I don't really want to talk about myself. If you want to know anything about my books or myself, or you want to contact me, you can go to my website, katharineannangel.co.uk. Okay, so I'm going to read to you a short story, the very first one in the book, Being Forgotten. It's about children or teenagers, young people that I taught or fostered many years ago. None of them are absolutely true. They're true stories blended. So boys are girls, girls are boys. I've mixed them up a bit. Obviously we don't want to be tracing the real people that it's about. Some fantastic illustrations in here. There's one of Esau, the story we're going to read, and his story is called Being Forgotten. And I'll just show you here, beautiful illustrations that head up each chapter by a guy from down south called Robert Oliver. Very kindly did them. Just sit back, relax, enjoy, and I'm going to do my best for the first time ever to read one of my stories online. It's about a little boy, Esau, probably in about year 9. Imagine him, nobody takes any notice of him. He doesn't really fit in, and he lives in a world of his imagination. Being Forgotten. I was meant to be in school, but no one noticed. It was one of those days when nobody bothered to see what was really under their noses. In art, we're doing Lowry, and everyone in a Lowry painting is going somewhere pretty fast. Lowry paint stick people bending under the weight of the serious purpose of life. But I'm not a stick, and I don't fit into anyone's picture. I am the boy who stands motionless while everyone goes around me with their noses to the ground. I am the fat boy who no one bothers to bully because I never react. I am the submissive one who steps quietly back to avoid a passing mongrel pulling on the lead of a reluctant man. I am the one knocked in the gut by that skinny woman power walking within her iPod world. A blonde girl, excluded from my class last year, pushes a buggy over my size 9 scuffed shoes. She swears at me because it's all my fault for being at the bus stop, for having feet that face forward across her path, and she marches in, a cloud of weed and body odour. High in the watery blue sky, white woolly wisps unravel their jet plane trails, sketching noughts and crosses games that no one ever plays. I consider the invisible ones, seated in their tubes above the clouds, and it occurs to me that they will never know me. Their life continues as it will continue whether I, Esau Edwards, exist or not. No one above the clouds or on the earth below notice anything else today because, as usual, everyone is thinking only about themselves. And so am I, thinking about myself, that is. I stand at the bus stop with the usual crowd of pushing, bitching, smoking, swearing, pale-faced representatives of the parents of tomorrow. I am silent, the invisible one. Today, as usual, everyone piles onto the bus, rushing upstairs to claim the coveted back seats. Except for me. Today I do not move. I clutch my oversized art folder and scraggy rucksack and observe as the driver of the bus nods, 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 accepting bus passes as they flick under his nose, not bothering to recognise faces or to challenge the extra boy who'd slept over at his mate's and shouldn't be on board without paying. The driver glances in his wing mirror as the door sucks shut. And then he pulls out into traffic without indicating. A mini metro accelerates around the bus and cuts in sharply to avoid the central reservation. I witness this, but I don't move. I simply stare at the back of the bus until I can no longer read the receding advert. Alpha course at a church near you. Last month it was something about phoning the Samaritans. It's possible that in reality I am not here alone on this pavement in Preston, on this planet, in this universe. After 20 minutes, most of the rush hour traffic clears and a grumpy lollipop man outside Kings Park Primary retreats with his metal stop disc held high like a standard bearer at the end of a war. The battlefield is clearing. Right now, I am our man in Bosnia, the only truthful witness to the atrocities of life behind the doors of Fairstone Technology College, secretly filming for Sky News on a shrapnel-damaged mobile. This is Esau Edwards on location, Blackpool Road bus stop, Preston. The thought of my own unfortunate name triggers the playground voices in my mind. I saw Esau sitting on a seesaw. How many S's is that? None. No S in that. I search for the letter S in my brain, but it comes out as S is for snake, and it slithers away. I check my reflection in the bus stop glass, and I'm reassured that the boy I see is me, myself, I. A skinny tree sprouts from its special place in the pavement, and I kick lines into the dusty earth around it. I am a giant staring down to the midget world, squishing all the minuscule people into tiny blotches, merging their colours together, and it looks like a Jackson Pollock, and I am famous with no hands and no feet artist. I am Wilfred Owen, war poet in forever England, on some corner of a forgotten street, or whatever it was. Or, was that Rupert Brooke? I can't remember who wrote what, so I rub my shoe violently over my unique dust design. I cannot draw, paint, or even complete a painting by numbers before boredom sets in. Etch-a-sketch was my artistic limit. Up, along, down, back, and squirgle, which, if you ask me, is total talent and classy coordination, although no one ever said. Hey, that's good, Esau. Do one for me, do it again. Show me how. No one even said, give me your picture, Esau, let me see. Anyway, 5 years ago, my ancient Etch-a-Sketch fell in the bath and I renamed it Wet-a-Sketch, and then I chucked it in the bin. Decision time. Do I stay or do I go? While making the decision, I trundle towards the traffic lights, my rucksack flung nonchalantly over one shoulder, because who cares that when I'm old I'll be in spinal injuries, having no pain, no gain physio. Hey, I could win a BAFTA for my natural impression of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And the first prize goes to... Long pause. Hold breath. Raise an eyebrow. Envelope opens. Tense moment. Nicole Kidman in a silver gown announces, Esau Edwards. The audience goes wild, cheering and leaping to their feet, crazy with excitement, and I nearly fall off the curb. Whilst collecting my incredibly heavy trophy, I managed to negotiate a difficult zebra crossing and land safely and triumphantly on the other side. I'm still signing autographs and resisting the amorous advances of Katie Holmes, telling her firmly, no, go back to Tom, I have no need of your love. When I arrive at the park by the railway track, you know, The London to Glasgow line, the one grown-ups go on about. They say, don't you dare go near it, because even though you might not worry about being killed by a train, you should be worried about getting caught on CCTV. They say that transport cops camouflage themselves as trees and leap out at trespassers and pull them along by their ears. Swings do nothing for me now that I'm growing up, but I'm still tempted by the roundabout. I turn 1 minute clockwise, and same again, anti-clockwise, which spins the blood backwards to undizzy my brain. It's all to do with your inner ear, not your left ear, or your right ear, or even your Starship Enterprise final front ear. Ha ha! It's an old joke, I know, but you can't help thinking it every time. Inside your head, in the empty space between your ears, you have an inner ear which helps you stand up straight, unless of course you whirl all the blood around in it so it sloshes about until you get vertigo, and sometimes I do throw up. I jump off the roundabout and stagger in the direction of the darkest corner of the park. Bushes and brambles arch over a muddy path which slides steeply down an embankment to merge with a muddy track used by dog walkers. Today is not the sort of day to feel afraid of the dark, or of strangers, or of being alone. In fact, you'll never walk alone if you're a Liverpool fan, to which I'm totally loyal, except when Preston North End are doing well in the league. When that happens, I say, yeah, I support PNE and I'm proud of it. We're heading up to the top. Halfway through the year, Preston's magical winning streak is over, and in my opinion, they're heading for relegation, so it's back to yelling, come on Liverpool, you're invincible, untouchable. I like to be on the winning side, loyal to all, never a loser. I think I'm alone when I walk under the railway bridge, but I am not. The bridge forms a shadowy arch about 15 metres long, and people are supposed to walk under this to the golf course on the other side, and then along the bank of the stream for about 1/4 of a mile until they meet the road. Then they either continue on to make a circuit home, or they double back on themselves to make the most of the countryside. I walk under the bridge, but I stop halfway. And in the darkest space, I look up at the dripping, greasy brick curve, stuffed with ferns and moss, and I make a small noise. Pop! It echoes, so I repeat my sound. Pop! Beneath my feet is a canvas of wet gravel and fag butts and blobs of dried gum, grey and white in the dim light, and I think this is more like a Jackson Pollock, and I wonder about art awards and how I could easily make a quick 50 grand for this if I called it Countryside Walk. So I frame it in my mind and introduce my masterpiece to the Tate Gallery. And I expect the usual accolade from the astounded adult world. This time Nicole Kidman apologises. Sorry, I don't do art awards, she says. I jump. Reality strikes me with its lightsaber. No time to become Darth Vader. That cough is real. Glancing around, I can barely make out the slimy arch and the Jackson Pollock, and of course no one is standing behind me ready to cosh me and steal my phone and bag. Then I remember to look up more carefully, because on CSI Crime I learnt that people who search a room for clues often forget to check the ceiling or on top of the wardrobe. And I screw my eyes up searching for the telltale reflective eye of CCTV. I am trying to watch you, watching me, watching you. That sound again. It's almost human. That's definitely someone gathering phlegm and then spitting it out. My heart races because I don't know whether to run forwards or backwards, and my head whirls around like an owl looking for whatever or whoever it is. There's a movement in the shadows just where the arch meets the ground, and suddenly a brick flies out onto my path. A crumpled monster is unfolding itself and snorting, and the smell of drains wafts up from a mass of cardboard and rags. My eyes get used to the dim light, and I discern a black and orange sleeping bag, which I recognise from the Argos catalogue because I wanted one just like that. It's got Garfield on it. But this Garfield has been in a fight. A small creature scuttles out from a hole in Garfield's eye, where grey stuffing overflows like pus. 2 more scurry out, and I think maybe it's the 3 blind mice as a human body lurches upwards, and instinctively I step back because that's going to be the farmer's wife with a carving knife. I bump my head on the roof, and it's a good thing it's almost dark because my mouth is open and no sound comes out, and I know I'm about to meet the bride of Frankenstein. The monster breathes heavily through its nose. Its long mane glistens in the shafts of sunlight that dare to squint into the space. I can see its eye. It's the grotesque Cyclops himself. The eye is reading me. It stares and stares. It's retrieving scraps of information from my incredible earthling brain before it disappears, whoomph, to planet Xeroxa to begin the human race in the 59th galaxy. I will be zombified, brainless as a baby, every cell sucked dry, never to move again. Siggy, whispers Cyclops huskily. What's it asking me for? I don't smoke. No thanks. I've got a lion bar, I squeak, thinking how brave of me to squeak at all. Got a cigarette? It rasps, though why it's asking for one when it's just offered me one is beyond my comprehension. I shake my head, wondering if it's male or female, young or old, alive or dead. It pushes aside a soggy wodge of cardboard and crawls on hands and knees out into the light. It is wearing torn grey cotton trousers under a baggy wool jumper of no colour, the sleeves of which hang right over its hands. It crawls and its sleeves go flip, flap, flop. I watch it slither away from me, face first, down the small bank to the edge of the stream, and suddenly I realise that its feet are human. The soles are blackened leather and covered with scabs and blisters. It cups its hands and slurps at the clear water, and I think how I wouldn't do that, drink from the river. It might have germs, and there's a ton of rubbish upstream, and rat piss that gives you Weil's disease. The body eases itself into a sitting position and shifts its feet forwards. It lowers them into the icy water, and the whole earth sighs with relief. Finally, the body folds itself forwards, dipping its head down between its knees and letting its face fall into the stream for about 6 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It hurls its head back, tossing its twisted, matted brown locks, shaking water everywhere, and the droplets sparkle in the sunlight. And I'm amazed because when Cyclops, the body monster, turns to face me, I see it is a woman with 2 eyes. We look straight at each other and I don't know what to say, so I stammer. I'm meant to be in school. But she doesn't reply. Her feet are still in the stream, so I ask, is it cold? And she says nothing. I think she feels nothing. Anyway, I'd better go, I add to fill the silence, and then I quickly turn round and walk back through the archway just as the 9:15 train rattles and screams, cutting up the countryside nearby, and I think of a joke. What do you call a man with a train on his head? Coach. Not even half funny. What do you call a man with a paper bag on his head? Russell. Which reminds me of the bag in my rucksack, stuffed with peanut butter sandwiches and crisps and a Lion bar, an apple and some fresh orange in a little carton, and I thought, what could I give Cyclops? Not the chocolate, obviously, because I always eat chocolate, but a sandwich and maybe the crisps, which are cheese and onion, are not my favourite. I turn and the woman is crawling back to her hideout, the gap in the wall of the arch, and the arch forms a halo over the woman, and I wonder how many people had already walked past her this morning and not known. She stops as I approach and leans up on her elbows, looking at me with wide, empty eye sockets, like she's on the poster from Les Mis. I rummage in my rucksack for my lunchbox and decide to give her both sandwiches as well as the crisps. I stretch out my arm while standing as far back from her body as possible. Our hands reach towards each other slowly, slowly. The food crosses the chasm between us, and I think about healthy eating and less sugar and 5 a day, not just 1 apple. Suddenly, she snatches the food and our hands touch, and it is electric, so I yank mine back quickly and hold it to my face, and I don't know why, but it smells like a dog's ear from a dog with bad ears. But then I say, "You'd better have this orange juice. It's the real thing with vitamin C, I think." She croaks, "Thanks." And for no reason, I cry 2 tears, 1 from each eye. My red PE sweatshirt is crushed at the top of my rucksack, so I grab it and toss it towards her, and then my legs turn towards school, and I run and I run and run. When I finally arrive, wheezing, the bell is ringing and it's only break time, and no one asks, "Where have you been?" Later, Sir shouts at me for not having the full kit for orienteering, and I don't know why Sir's bothered, as it's a warm day and I at least have my AirTags. He shouts and shouts, "Why didn't you?" and "Where is your sweatshirt?" and "You'll get a letter home," until I open my mouth and explain matter of fact, I gave it to Cyclops, which makes everyone laugh, even Sir. Oh yeah, and later my mum shouts at me for muddy shoes to go and clean them now and stop crossing the school playing fields in school shoes, because at this time of year it's always muddy, even when it's sunny, because the drainage is bad in this clay soil. She can do so many words without a breath. Every day I stand at the bus stop and I think about Cyclops, and I climb onto the bus, the last pupil, daring myself to miss it again, but I can't. So I attend lessons, and I don't mind because there are so many things to dream about. Then, one day, during Monday maths, a prefect comes into my form carrying a plastic box overflowing with lost property and says, "Can everyone check, because otherwise it's going to charity and there's so much stuff with no name on." Behind the prefect is her mate, Shelley, with a bin bag full of named things and giggling, and she chucks my red sweatshirt at me because it's labelled Esau Edwards. Sir yells, "Don't throw things, Shelley," and "Esau Edwards, it's time you learnt to take care of your property." And all the class shout, "Oh, pooey, stinky Esau, do you wash your sweatshirt in the toilet?" And I can smell cheese and onion crisps and a stinky dog's ear, and it makes me feel sick straight away. How did my shirt get to lost property, I wonder? My parents read the Evening Post, and today it arrives with a photo of the railway bridge where Cyclops lives, and the Scouts are cleaning up Lancashire for the good of nature and to save the planet. I read the article, but all it says is, "Send in your photos of Lancashire's grot spots and we will judge the worst," or "Fly tippers cost the nation's taxpayer thousands." Nothing about Cyclops. They cleaned up the footpath, and I feel glad that no one discovered Cyclops. But I'm wrong. My older sister, who knows everything because she's studying performing arts at college and never misses an episode of Hollyoaks, leans over my shoulder and points at the photo of the bridge and says, "That's where the old witch died." And I thought, what do you know? She wasn't old, and she wasn't a witch. "How did she die?" I asked. And I asked. My sister screws her face up. She does that when she doesn't know an answer. "What do you care?" she says, and tosses back her wet care. But I do care. I care a lot. But I will never tell a soul. The next story is Kurja, the scent of a mother. Might read that another time. Thanks for listening. Go and listen to another person now if you like. Thank you. Bye.